welcome to SVG-TV's news for Wednesday, December 8th, 2021. I'm Triska Campbell with the details. Prime Minister Dr. Gonsalves is pleased with the functioning of schools across the country during the two-day strike action called for by the SVG Teachers Union against the government's vaccination policy. On NBC Radio today, Prime Minister Gonsalves said the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education advised him on 3 occasions yesterday that schools were opened and functioned well with teachers who were expected to turn up for face-to-face interactions showed up overwhelmingly.
As you know, there are some persons who are unvaccinated and who did not naturally, their term would have come to an end, and that group, their term of employment, because they would not have taken the vaccine by the close of play on Friday the 3rd. And there are some, and that number includes close to 200 who sought exemptions. And some of them, most of them were awaiting a response from the chief personnel officer about the status of their exemptions. There are about, as advised, there are about 45 teachers who sought medical exemption. Well, all of those knew whether they have medical exemption or not, because that's a fairly straightforward one. And some have been denied and some have been given exemptions.
Noting that there are about 200 teachers who have not yet taken the COVID-19 jab, PM Gonsalves said of this number, 45 have sought medical exemption and about 150 religious exemption. He, however, noted that 133 of the 150 teachers who sought exemption on religious grounds have been advised that their request has been denied. The Prime Minister said the statistics show those who were not vaccinated are in the minority and therefore will not prevent schools from operating in any event. He was advised that 91 persons have been recruited temporarily to fill any vacancy.
So what had happened is that before the 3rd of December, before Friday, the Ministry of Education couldn't have known how many new persons they should hire.
Okay.
Because you wouldn't know how many persons have taken the vaccine, would be taking the vaccine, even that 10-day quote-unquote grace period. You see, Johnny P. So they were cautious. They wanted to hire enough so that there would be no real disruptions or no significant disruptions. But as they get the numbers clearer, they obviously would hire more. Mm-hmm. And I think now they're drilling down, as I've been advised, not generally to get teachers, but particularly for the secondary schools, teachers who can teach specific subjects.
Prime Minister Gonsalves said while he understands that some teachers may feel the need to show solidarity with their colleagues who are not vaccinated for various reasons, they must understand that their primary obligation is the health and safety of students and for their education. He said he wishes something else could have been done in order to protect students in this period of COVID-19. However, he is 100% satisfied with that his government has been reasonable with its regulations and requirements for vaccination.
Talk in relation to teachers, and a year from now, 2 years from now, and they decide, well, they want to come back to what is their first love, teaching. And they are unvaccinated. Everything being equal, all, the Latin scholars have a lovely formulation for it, ceteris paribus, all things being equal. You can be re-employed. And all things being equal, all the considerations which would normally take when you're hiring somebody, yes. Is the post suitable, is one available, is the employer satisfied with you in terms of your performance as a teacher hitherto, and with the public service, the ministry recommend to the Public Service Commission that you be reemployed.
Okay.
Yes. In the normal course of things.
As for the other categories of frontline workers and strategic workers who should have already taken at least one dose of the available COVID-19 vaccines, Prime Minister Dr. Gonsalves gave a breakdown of those who are yet to do so. In the hospital services, 28 staff members have chosen not to take the jab, and some have since sought religious or medical exemptions. They include 2 ward managers, 13 staff nurses, 7 nursing assistants, and 6 nursing aides. In immigration, 2 persons have not yet taken the jab. One was given a temporary exemption to do so by today, and the other person sought religious exemption. 18 staff members at the custom chosen not to take the jab, and as for the police, up to Friday, December 3rd, the final day given for frontline and strategic workers to take at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccines, 32 officers had either resigned or retired, with only 2 of those officers walking away with no money. One of the officers served 1 year and the other 8 years. There were also 13 others who chose not to get vaccinated, from the ranks of constable to station sergeants. PM Gonsalves used the opportunity to continue to appeal to all citizens to get vaccinated, noting that his government will continue to manage the risk of the deadly COVID-19 virus.
I hear the argument that the vaccine can't stop you from getting COVID. Well, it's not 100% protection against COVID, but you're managing the risks, because the vaccine will help markedly to reduce the chance of you getting COVID if you're vaccinated or transmitting it. Or if you get the COVID and you're vaccinated, you're likely not to get it very seriously. And you're not likely to be hospitalized. And you're unlikely to die from it.
Yes.
That is the data all over the world. And that is the data which we have certainly in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. 76 COVID-related deaths, none of them is from somebody who is vaccinated. Now, sometime in the future, or maybe even while I'm talking, somebody who has taken the vaccine may die from COVID, you know. Johnny P. But that doesn't invalidate the point I'm making.
Right.
We are managing risks.
Meanwhile, Industrial Relations Officer of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union, Andrew John, said the government's vaccination policy is taking a toll on teachers and other affected workers. At a news conference today, John shared the experiences of some teachers whom he said were expected to be at the conference to share their own experience, but decided against doing so at the last minute. John spoke of one member of the SVG-TU whom he said was attached to the government-assisted secondary school, who received a dismissal letter with no severance, citing the statutory rule and order.
And I spoke to one particular teacher, and I was so moved, even at my age. I was, as they say, moved to tears when I heard the experience that this teacher shared with me, because he taught for some years. He's still a teacher. His wife is a public servant. He has his mortgage. He has children. And yet, because of his religious belief, he does not believe that he should take this vaccine. And so he is threatening his wife and himself with losing their jobs. In the height of Christmas season, which is supposed to be a blessed Yuletide season, we are hearing the government proclaiming that teachers who are unvaccinated will see an empty bank check at the end of the month. Their accounts will not be paid, just to put it bluntly. right? And these teachers, the teacher expressed to me the stress that this has brought him, right? Even in light of his bishop refusing to sign his exemption.
John said what is even more sad is that teachers and others who have sought an exemption from taking the job on medical or religious grounds are being denied.
It doesn't make any sense you bring your medical records from your previous doctors. The cards are stacked against teachers. The cards are stacked against teachers. There's like a no-win situation for teachers. The only light at the end of the tunnel seems to be the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union. This is the hope that the teachers have right now. A lot of them are praying and they are appealing, but even the bishops at the churches are saying they don't have this as a doctrine. This is a bread and butter issue. And yet they're saying they, you know, and even in cases where some pastors have signed, they have not been granted. The leave has not been granted. The exemption has not been granted.
The SVG Teachers Union Industrial Relations Officer said the deck seems to stock against teachers who are not at this time between a rock and a hard place.
Are we doing this to our teachers? Right? Why are we doing this to our teachers, especially in this blessed time of the year when we are seeing people are trying to celebrate? You know, we are seeing people trying to get this Christmas spirit up, and we are having teachers now being pushed away from their jobs. Some of them with over 30 years experience, right? Now, yesterday another person would have reported that they went to the bank, more or less to get their loan refinanced, and the bank turned them away asking for a job letter or vaccination card. Now that is another stumbling block that is put in the way of teachers, because what that is saying is that the bank has already realized that if you are unvaccinated, then you don't have a job.
Noting that a number of teachers who took the COVID-19 jab at last minute against their will, John said this has created mental issues for some.
A number of stress-related issues coming out of this. And you're saying, okay, you want us to go into the classroom, go back into the classroom in this kind of mental state where I am not happy with the decision, I am worried about my health, I am worried, I am not feeling comfortable with what I have done, with the decision I have made. And you are expecting that we would go back and do our best in the classroom. I don't know if teachers do not receive a salary in December. I cannot feel happy, you know, with my family sitting down, eating whatever ham or turkey or whatever, comfortably sitting there, knowing that there are parents out there, teachers and other public workers, public servants, who will not be able to provide a meal for their family during this Christmas season, for their children. This is wider than just the teachers' union, it is across the nation.
And President of the SVG Teachers Union, Oswald Robinson, said he is pleased that over 50% of the schools responded on Tuesday to their strike action, that they were expecting more participation today. Robinson said they are mobilizing all forces for their mass picket action on Friday, noting that while they have not requested permission from the police to picket, as they have a right to do so under the Trade Unions Act, they are, however, awaiting permission to use amplified sound.
As I said, we will start at 9:30. We will all decked in black, and we would surround the vegetable market in Kingston. No interference with the traffic. It is one that is peaceful. We expect that some of the church leaders who would be there would start off the day with prayers and a few little singing, and we would enjoy ourselves and have fun, but at the same time we would send a clear message to the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And if there is any attempt to stop this picket, we will picket, because if you want the picket to stop then you have to get rid of that wicked bill. And the wickedness that you have well orchestrated to execute upon the nation. It's not only teachers, because if teachers have no money for their salaries in December, it's going to affect teachers being able to send their children to school, to provide for the rest of the family. How are they going to pay the bills of Findlay Water Authority and other financial obligations which they have?
Robertson said their legal team has prepared the instruments to be filed soon against the government's vaccination policy and the cases of those who have been affected by it.
I heard the government's lawyer on TV last night, who appeared to be very scared, confused, and drifting, throwing out a sprat to catch a whale. So he's saying he's anxiously awaiting anybody to sue the government. But you didn't hear the last piece which he had in his mind to say. The last piece of that was that he wanted to say that he was anxiously awaiting anyone who sued the government because he knew for a fact that he would lose. You did not hear that. He was so scared, he was so frightened that he didn't bring out that part. Right? So the point of the matter is, we are not going to say in the general public what course of, what type of legal action we are going to take. That's one of our strategy, our ammunition. You will hear that from the legal counsel at the appropriate time. But what I know for fact is that the instruments have been prepared and they will be filed in the court soon, very soon.
A resolute Robinson said they are not going to leave any stones unturned in their fight against the government's vaccination policy.
We are going to fight tooth and nail right down to the end. There is no retreat. Okay? There is no retreat. We have come too far and our teachers would have suffered so much. The nation would have suffered so much. We're not going to turn back. They are right against the wall. The backs are right against the wall. It's every weekend you get in a new memo coming to school, all kind of crap. You can't tell somebody who you have not given them a letter of dismissal, where the permanent secretary is saying that he has the authority to consider you as, if you're unvaccinated, and you enter the school compound, that is unlawful. Which law is he quoting? Does he have that authority to tell people that they are fired? Same as how a letter came to say that you have been appointed. If you all are real professionals, you can't send a word, a message to somebody. You must write the individual teacher and say your services are no longer required and state the reason. Because you're all a bunch of cowards.
1.5 million EC dollars will be allocated in the 2022 budget for the promoting the youth micro enterprises PRYME program to assist the youth and other entrepreneurs who were impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and the eruptions of La Soufrière volcano. So said Minister of Finance Camillo Gonsalves during a recently held virtual budget consultation. Prime Minister Gonsalves said the COVID-19 pandemic has negatively impacted entrepreneurship in SVG and the government is implementing new initiatives to assist young entrepreneurs.
COVID has put a damper on entrepreneurial activity because there are a lot of businesses, a lot of types of entrepreneurial activity that depend on people being able to be around in large groups, in contact with one another, to drive traffic to your business and your store or what have you. In this budget is going to be another $1.5 million for PRYME. And the PRYME program has been extremely popular. So popular that we couldn't meet all of the demand for the thousands of people who applied. But the PRYME program is going to be there for young people, and it's going to assist. It's going to have special focus on people in some of the more affected areas.
The finance minister said they are also building community markets in the East St. George constituency for young entrepreneurs to sell their small business services.
We are building also And if you're in Glen, in East St. George, going to Glen, you'll see what we're doing. We're building some, they're almost community markets, but they're not for just selling produce. They're for selling services, like for barber shops and cell phone repair people, bill payment centers, technology centers, bakeries and the like. We're providing free spaces to young entrepreneurs to set up their businesses, because one of the challenges that small young businesses, entrepreneurs have, they want startup money. That's one issue. We're dealing with that with PRYME. Another issue that they have is that they don't have a location to do their business, and we're trying to provide locations in various areas for that.
Minister Gonsalves said that the government will also implement the Eastern Caribbean Partial Credit Guarantee Cooperation Program in the new year.
If you want to go, if you're a young entrepreneur and you want to go to the bank to get a loan, so this is more than PRYME money now. This is a bigger entrepreneurial activity. But the bank doesn't want to lend you because your entrepreneurs are risky. Your business might fail and they don't want to lend you, and then they can't get their money back. The ECPCGC is going to partially guarantee that loan. So up to 80% of your loan will be guaranteed. So even though you're borrowing, you know, $1,000, I'm just using numbers that will be easy. $800 out of that $1,000 or $600 out of that $1,000, depending on where it will be guaranteed, so that the bank will feel more comfortable that the government will pick up the tab on that part of the entrepreneurial loan. So it's a very innovative, it's a fresh initiative, and it's the kind of thing that's going to get more money in the hands of entrepreneurs generally, but young entrepreneurs in particular.
The government minister said extensive technical training and certification programs will also be provided to the youth, which will help to develop more entrepreneurial activities.
Who want to get into a field, they might have some natural aptitude, but they don't have the necessary formal training. We're going to provide through a number of programs, one called Sky, one called Anew, and one called Yate, which are dealing with young people learning technical skills that will help their entrepreneurial activity. Already this year in 2021, we provided training to over 745 young people in things like welding, plumbing, cosmetology, baking, and then we provided those people with some form of assistance so that if they wanted to get in and start their own business, they could get a PRYME grant more quickly if they have their certification in these areas. So there are a number of fresh initiatives in the budget designed specifically to assist young people, because a vibrant entrepreneurial class, young people who are willing to take a risk and start a business, a vibrant entrepreneurial culture, where people feel fearless in going out there and pursuing their dreams is essential to accelerating the economy.
Meanwhile, Minister of Agriculture Saboto said the government will be putting several initiatives into place to reduce PREDIAL larceny. During the virtual budget consultation, Minister Caesar said the issue continues to be the most vexing problem in farming communities.
It's needed first and foremost. Even before we address the issue of boots on the ground, we have to take another look at the legislative framework. There are many strategic interventions that we have to put in place. For example, the mandatory registration of animals. We have to definitely beef up the surveillance in certain areas. But it is one of the issues raised in the different farming communities, and I know that some persons took advantage of the situation with the volcanic eruptions and went onto persons' farms and removed their animals illegally. I know that there are several persons who were arrested and charged, and definitely it's something that we do not condone. But as we work to bring to the fore fresh initiatives, we have to ensure that we reduce the incidence of PREDIAL larceny in the country.
Minister Caesar is also urging persons to desist from leaving their animals to roam and destroy farms in the red and orange zones, which were hard hit by the recent volcanic eruption.
Red and orange zones that we are seeing still, and we have to do a lot of work to ensure that we reduce this. Some persons still are just allowing their animals to roam. And I know the Honorable Prime Minister made a case, made a claim, and we, at the ministry, we went in, we purchased ropes, purchased chains, we ensured that as many of these animals were tied, but there are still some farmers who in the red and orange zones are not keeping their animals on their property and allowing them to go and destroy other farmers. And what is taking place is that the valuation on the books for crops destroyed is extremely low. And this is something that we will have to revisit in 2022 from the standpoint of amending the legislation.
29 education officers in the Ministry of Education have successfully completed a leadership course aimed at supporting teachers to improve their method of teaching and help prepare the future leaders, with the ultimate goal of leaving no child behind. This through the International Leadership System Leaders Program, or course funded by the government of SVG and the World Bank Group under the Human Development Service Delivery Project, and developed by the institution, the International School Leadership. Speaking at the closing graduation ceremony, a senior project officer of the Education Project Management Unit, Joseph Green, said that the program aims to strengthen the quality of service delivery, social protection, and labor.
The project will benefit students, teachers, and school leaders, that is principals, deputy principals, and senior teachers, at all 68 primary, 20 and 27 secondary schools in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Poor and vulnerable households will benefit from strengthened mechanisms to provide safety net support. In another event, you will hear about how the project benefits poor and unemployed youths, providing them with skills to access the labor market. Today, we are celebrating with the education officers, those who provide guidance and support to the principals and teachers in the education system. And I know with the training that you received, I'm confident that in the years to come, that our boys and girls will perform even better than what they're doing currently. And those who are struggling will have great improvement in.
Instructor on the International School Leadership, Bruce Barrette, said that he is proud of all of the education officers who took part in the program. He said that it was a lot of work, but at the end, it was worth it.
Because nothing is more impactful for improving school leadership than having a strong system ally, a system person that's there providing the hard questions, the motivation, and the understanding all along the way. I want you to use relational trust that we talked about so vividly through Robinson's work as your permanent signature in stressful times. Because, you know, frankly, you understand that it's doable after everything you've been through. Come hard conversation, challenging negotiations, come global pandemic, historic eruption, safety shelters, geographic isolation. Not only have you got this, but you come out the other side with relationships intact. And that's what's critical as system folks, that you can go through stressors, but come out the other side with relationships intact.
Deputy Chief Education Officer Dixton Findlay congratulated all of the education officers who successfully completed the leadership program.
Provided useful and practical information that our education officers can use to support school leaders and teachers. I wish to thank Dr. Andy Scott and his team from the International School Leadership for organizing what participants described as a very edifying training course. Special thanks must be given to Mr. Bruce Barrette, the course instructor, for your patience and support. At times, many of the participants wanted to give up, but your encouragement kept them going and helped them to endure it to the end.
3 of the participants reflected on their journey throughout the training program.
I will always remember our sessions at the Methodist Church Hall, where you taught us 3 of the most profound ideas, in my opinion, in this course. The first being that we ought to develop shameless pride for our work, as this will propel us to put whatever we do out there and to be driven to influence those that we lead.
We also took a closer look at curriculum and assessment and realized that it's more important to work collaboratively as a team, even as we visit schools, collect data, which will place us in a better position to assist our school leaders in planning, intervention, and follow through in executing the intervention and even conduct action research.
I really like the module on data, the whole use of data to drive instructions. But the one that resonated most with me was module 3, the one that spoke about relational trust, emotional intelligence, and cultural intelligence.